Okay, it's week 19 in the Premier League and it's December the 23rd we're going to look at, 2 days before Christmas Day, and there was a full programme of fixtures on the Saturday, and there's going to be another set on Boxing Day, so lots of football to enjoy. So let's get started with the opener at Goodison Park. A much improved Everton faced champions Chelsea. 2 absentees, Rooney for the Toffees, he was sick, and no Morata, suspended. Predictably, Chelsea had most of the ball, and in the 16th minute, 2 frantic goal line clearances from Jagielka set the tone. Everton did grow into the game, and for the rest of the half, Pickford wasn't that busy. Into the second half, and again Chelsea bombarded the Everton goal, and Pickford needed to be on his toes. Hazard getting lots of the ball, but the final pass just going astray. Anyway, Everton confined to defending, and Allardyce certainly had them resolute. Chelsea's best chance came from a miscued clearance by Williams, but the game ended goalless. Conte was very frustrated, but Big Sam absolutely delighted. So to the Etihad, and Bournemouth were trying to show the same diligence that they did at Old Trafford a few weeks back. Silva and company were back for City. Aguero up front, and he had an early chance. But then on 27, he converted it. He opened the scoring after sloppy play at the back by Bournemouth. Into the second, and on 53 minutes, a nice interplay with a final deft pass from Aguero, and Sterling made it 2. And it was 3 on 69, Aguero heading in from a pinpoint cross from Silva. City put the icing on the Xmas cake through Danilo 5 minutes from time. So 4-0, 17 wins and counting. And what of United? They were away to Leicester. They got off to a brisk start and had an early effort on goal. But then a hefty clearance out of defence, latched onto by Mahrez, and he laid it perfectly onto the on-running Vardy, and it ended up in the corner. The Foxes were ahead on 27 minutes. Mourinho's frown told it all. Now, just before the break, a well-worked move by United was neatly finished by Mata, with a well-placed shot past Schmeichel. Okay, so 1-1. Into the second half, chances for both sides. And then a free kick on the hour, and that man Mata curled a beauty into the top corner. The opportunities for United kept coming. Lingard missed a decent chance, and Rashford tried to be too cute after Pogba put him clear. And United paid for these missed chances, even though Leicester were down to 10 men. And the Foxes grabbed a late equaliser in added time by Maguire, who latched onto a great cross from Albrighton. Jose was fuming. So it ended 2-2. Newcastle arrived at the London Stadium in poor form, and Arnautovic gave them a terrible start by getting the opener with a smart strike after 6 minutes. Benitez's men responded quickly when Save scored from a free kick on 10 minutes with a nicely curved shot over the wall. And Newcastle maintained that momentum and soon after hit the bar and the post. The Magpies continued to be positive going forward, and this continued after the break, and finally they deservedly got a second on 53 minutes when Diame finished off a flowing move by hitting the roof of the net. The Hammers responded, and Ayew missed a penalty, however. Carroll came on as sub, but Newcastle, well, they broke from a Hammers corner, went down the other end, and Atsu increased the lead to 3-1. Well, West Ham certainly didn't give it up, and Ayew made up for his earlier penalty miss by rifling him with 20 minutes left. Lots of Hammers pressure, but however, Newcastle hung on for their first win in 2 months. I'll be back with the second half in a bit. Okay, this is part 2 of our weekend roundup, week 19. Burnley at home to Spurs. Well, things started quickly when Dele got very reckless and got a yellow card. That was in the first 5 minutes. But then 30 seconds later, he went over in the box and it looked a little soft, but Kane responded as he usually does from the penalty spot, and it was 1-0 Spurs. Burnley were looking somewhat subdued and nearly let Kane in again later in the half. Sissoko also forced 2 good saves from Pope before Burnley finally had their first chance, which Lloris dealt with. Into the second half, and Spurs continued to be on top. Sun blasted over, but finally on 69 minutes, Kane put through, placed it into the bottom right-hand corner. And then he completed his, would you believe it, 7th hat-trick this season on 79 after dispossessing a defender and then a quick interchange with Ali before placing the ball in the same corner, but this time with his left foot. So a comfortable 3-0 win for Spurs, and Kane is now level on goals in a Premier League year with Alan Shearer. That's 36. And he's got one more game to play on Tuesday. The Friday night clash saw Liverpool face Arsenal at the Emirates, and it was a terrific game with lots of goals. Firmino warmed Czech's palms on 22, and then his header just went wide from a Coutinho cross. And finally, on 26 minutes, Salah's looped cross got a slight touch on, and Coutinho delicately headed it over Czech for the opener. A minute before the break, first Salah and then Mane missed golden chances to double level Liverpool's lead. So it remained 1-0 at the break. Early on in the second, Liverpool nicked the ball off Arsenal near their own penalty box, and Salah was away. Neat interchange with Firmino, and he ran at the heart of Arsenal's defence, and his curled shot got a slight defection, and it was 2-0. It was a magnificent breakaway goal, and Salah's 21st for the season. We then got to minute 53, and then the game really went up a notch. 3 Arsenal goals in under 5 minutes. First, Sanchez nipping in at the far post with Gomez sleeping. That's goal 1. A howler from Mignolet failing to deal with Xhaka's 30-yard strike goal. That's 2. And then the Liverpool defence still recovering as Ozil waltzed into the box to get number 3. Klopp blew a fuse on the touchline and his team looked in shock. But they responded and the equaliser came as a Firmino strike was just too strong for Czech and it fell into the net. So that was it. 3 each. Great game. Let's go on to the next fixture now. Back to Saturday's fixtures, of course. And rumours were rife that Mark Hughes, his job was under threat. Well, his side certainly looked up for the game, and Allen met a fierce cross from Crouch, and it was 1-0 after 19 minutes. Rondon missed a sitter a little later, and on half-time, Moting doubled the lead with a very cool finish. Stoke 2-0 at the break. Now, Pardew's Albion looked more purposeful as the second half got underway, and Rondon made it 2-1 6 minutes in. After that, Stoke looked very nervous as West Brom went for the equaliser. It didn't happen, so Stoke survived, and they even got a breakaway third goal with Foster backpedaling after he'd ventured up too far to increase the pressure. So Stoke won it 3-1. Now to the Liberty. Swansea with caretaker boss Leon Britton in charge following the sacking of Paul Clement. Boney was unavailable and so was Benteke for Palace, but he was suspended. An early shot from Townsend forced Fabianski to push over. Loftus-Cheek went close, but it was goalless at the break. Loftus-Cheek tumbled over in the box shortly after the restart, and Milivojevic stroked home the pen on 59 minutes to give Palace the lead. Anyway, at the other end, Dyer forced a corner, and then Ayew cracked a great shot past Baroni to level it up. And that's how it ended, 1 each. Both managers seemed quite satisfied. Okay, this is the third video of the week's games played on the 23rd. Let's continue with Brighton at home to Watford. And the home side made most of the running in the first half, but it was hardly riveting stuff. So to the second, and more of the same, with Brighton finally getting the breakthrough on 64 minutes when Gross's shot was helped in by Gomez's messy save. Brighton should have added a second before a rare chance for Richarlison, who headed wide. Watford overall were really poor. A good win for Chris Hughton and Brighton on the up. Next to St Mary's, and Southampton entertained Huddersfield, and the Terriers, improving of late, hit the crossbar early on. But it was Southampton who opened the scoring when Charlie Austin, poaching on the goal line, headed in from a colleague's header after a corner. Later, Austin was a bit naughty, leaving his boot on the Terriers' keeper's nose, but the ref took no action. Into the second half, and Austin fluffed a gilt-edged chance and later went off with a hamstring problem. But Huddersfield were always in the game, and they made Southampton pay for those missed chances, scoring on 64 minutes when De Potro was left unmarked in the 5-yard box, and he calmly headed in the equaliser. A late header by Oshida hit the post, but that was it. 1 each. More games on Boxing Day, to remind you, on Tuesday. But all bets are now off with regard to the title. City are 14 points in front. That means they've got to lose 5 games to relinquish their grip on the title. And that ain't going to happen. At the bottom, it's Swansea, West Bromwich Albion and Bournemouth. And it certainly looks like that could be the way it ends. Those 3 could be falling through the trapdoor. Goal of the week, well, it's got to be Mata's second goal, that peach of a free kick. Okay, we'll catch you next time.